Good evening and welcome to the North Metro Mayors Association Legislative Candidate Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Mayor Zach Lindstrom, Mayor of Mounds, and I will be moderating the forum this evening. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to the north suburban region of the Twin Cities. I'd like to thank North Metro Mayors Association for coordinating and sponsoring this forum, and thank the candidates joining us tonight for making this event possible. Thank you to us, Mounds View, for hosting the event this evening, and to NineNorth for recording and airing this forum. Our goal tonight is to give residents a chance to learn about the candidates' ideas and positions on issues important to the future of our communities and the North Metro region. We'll ask 4 prepared questions with set time limits. We regret we cannot cover every issue of interest tonight due to time constraints. I'm pleased to introduce the candidate for House District 39B, Amada Marquez Simula. Thank you for being with us here this evening, Amada.
Thanks, Zach.
It appears KT Jacobs is unable to join us this evening, so we'll begin with your opening statement. Please feel free.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to Mayor Lindstrom here. Zach and I have been able to partner on a few things, and so it's good to see you and be back here. And I appreciate all of the advocacy work Mounds View has done, especially to gun safety and making gun laws safer for everyone in Minnesota. But I'll start with saying good evening to everyone here. My name is Amada Marquez Simula. I have had the honor of serving as mayor of Columbia Heights for 3 terms. I'm in my 6th year now. And I spend my time connecting directly with people all the time, people in our community, people who are visiting Columbia Heights, people who live in Columbia Heights, people who are just coming into attend a faith event or maybe eat in a restaurant. Those are all people in our community. I've built my career on believing the best policy comes from listening first. I'm running for the Minnesota House because District 39B, Columbia Heights, New Brighton, and St. Anthony deserve a legislature who already knows how to get things done, and done at the local level by bringing people together. As mayor, I've led on things like canceling a surveillance camera program when our community raised real concerns about data privacy, building a technology advisory committee so residents have a real voice in decisions that affect them. And I'm running because I've seen up front and up close what happens when state and local governments don't talk to each other, and what's possible when they do. Whether it's transportation, affordable housing, or public safety, I know how to bring people together. Bringing them together at the table of neighbors, businesses, union members, and sometimes people who don't always agree together. So I'm ready to bring that collaborative work together approach to St. Paul. So I say thank you, and I look forward to this evening.
All right, well, thank you. We'll move on to our prepared questions. Amada will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Amada, our first question is, what are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while you're out campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2027 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues?
Yeah, thank you. The things I have been hearing most on doors is healthcare concerns, cost of living, and public safety. And those are not experienced as a different, separate issue at all. When someone's worried about their rent or their property taxes, or just keeping groceries on the table, they're also showing up and they're also having the same stress of what's happening to my neighbors, what's happening to my neighborhood, and how are we keeping everyone safe. On affordability, I hear it from renters and homeowners alike. People love Columbia Heights, New Brighton, and St. Anthony. They want to stay, but they are feeling like they're getting squeezed out. On public safety, people want to feel like their block is being looked after, but they don't want to be surveilled. And we want real investment. Things like community policing, programs for youth, and really important mental health response that's going to be there for our community to bring them support, and that we need those sort of resources there first before we even have to bring in police. If elected, here's ways I would get the 2027 legislature to work. I'm already been working on building relationships with I'm planning on our incoming governor, Amy Klobuchar. I've already been working across the aisle with Republicans in housing and rental assistance and rental programs for seniors, working with our co-governing with our legislature and our state and representatives as well. I would start by bringing people to the table like I do right now. So that means local officials, business owners, and advocates, and also residents. So bringing them in together before the bills are even drafted, not afterwards. I've done this work before, and I've sat across the table from people to figure out how collaboration really works, not just by voting, but by building policy together and the people it affects.
Thank you. We'll move on to transportation. What transportation infrastructure priority in your district or the broader North Metro region do you think deserves more attention at the state level, and why do you see it as important regionally?
If there's one piece of transportation infrastructure that deserves the most attention, to my point of view, it's the Central Avenue corridor or Highway 65. Central Avenue is one of the busiest corridors in the North Metro. It runs right from the heart of Columbia Heights all the way up into the North Metro. It's a state highway, also a main street, and a route families walk and bike all at once. It's also a main corridor that links to 49th Avenue, which crosses to 4 schools in our school district, our high school, our middle school, and 2 elementary schools. Right now, that road, Central Avenue, is not designed well for any of the reasons or ways it's being used. So we need some real investment in bus rapid transit and safety improvements along the corridor, better crossing, better lighting, better shelters, and more reliable, more frequent service. And it's not just a Columbia Heights issue, it's a regional one. Central Avenue connects our communities to Minneapolis and to the rest of the North Metro job market. When transit is unreliable, people can't get to work, kids can't get to school, and small businesses along the corridor lose foot traffic. I'm very proud of the work that we have done in Columbia Heights to advocate for funding and resources for the reconstruction that will be happening along Central Avenue. And we also have bus rapid transit coming in as well. They have already MnDOT's dedicated $25 million to work on this line, and the planning is already happening, and I'm so glad to see this come up. We've been working on this for a while as a community. So I'm really proud to see the work we're doing, as well as a beautification plan and water mitigation along Central Avenue. So it won't just be the infrastructure of the road itself changing, but how does water runoff change and move into our city parks and into the Mississippi eventually? Well, all those things will be looked at.
Moving on, our next question is, the North Metro competes globally for business and workers alike. What policies would you support, whether focused on business growth, workforce and labor needs, or both, to help this region attract and retain them?
Yes, well, we win by having the best trained workforce in the state. So my strongest policy priorities here is investing in workforce training and registered apprenticeship programs, building stronger partnerships between our schools, our unions, and our local employees and employers. And I am proud to have the support of labor unions like the Northern Midwest Regional Council of Carpenters. And that partnership reflects exactly the model I want to see more of. Real paid pathways into skilled trades that don't require a 4-year degree and mountains of debt. It's good for workers, and it's good for businesses in our region who are struggling to find skilled talent right now. On the business side, I'd support policies that make it easier for small and mid-sized employers here to actually access those training programs that can reduce the red tape that keeps them from growing and relocating here in the first place. If we want to attract and retain both businesses and workers, we need both halves of the equation here. A business climate that welcomes growth, and a workforce pipeline that gives people real, family-sustainable careers close to home. And that's the kind of collaborative economic development I've worked on as mayor already, and I will bring that same approach to the legislature. When we talk about affordability, one of those things is not having a lot of school debt, and being able to get to a job and start working with a low-cost way to get in there is a way to keep things affordable as well.
But you had to know the next question was coming. There is an ongoing debate about whether numerous housing and zoning decisions should be set by the state or left to local city government. Where do you come down on this question, and why?
It's a very nuanced question, and as mayor, it's something our city has definitely dealt with this. And as a part of like Metro Cities, we've talked about this. As a part of the league, as a part of Regional Council of Mayors, this comes on back and forth. But I don't think there's just one answer, all state or all local control. It really depends on the issue. So where I land is the state has a role in setting minimum standards, especially around density near traffic and transit corridors, because housing access and transit access are deeply connected. No single city can solve a regional housing shortage alone, but the specifics, how a city implements that and what a neighborhood actually looks like and how we balance new development with existing residents, it needs to stay local in local hands. As mayor, I've seen firsthand how much local knowledge matters. Columbia Heights, New Brighton, and St. Anthony are all three different communities with three different housing needs. A one-size-fits-all mandate from St. Paul with no flexibility doesn't serve any of us well. So my approach in the legislature would be to support state-level goals like more housing near transit, reasonable limits on what pushes people out of their homes, while making sure cities keep real flexibility in how we get there. And that's not a compromise position. It's what actually works when you've sat in the mayor's chair and you've had to make it work.
Well, this concludes our questions. We'll now move to closing statements, and you'll have 1 minute.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to North Metro Mayors Association for hosting this. What I hope you've heard from me tonight is pretty simple. I've spent years building coalitions and getting things done as mayor and in this community. I want to bring that same collaborative, let's get it done energy to St. Paul, whether it's affordability, healthcare, public safety, transportation, workforce, or housing. The answers aren't going to come from the Capitol alone. They're going to come from legislators who keep showing up at the doors, listening to the community, meeting people in coffee shops, and talking with people at their own table. And sometimes that's going to mean people that you don't always agree with, but we're going to find out the best solution the way we work that way. I've been doing this for years, and I'm ready to keep doing it at the Capitol for District 39B. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the North Metro Mayors Association Legislative Candidate Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Zach Lindstrom, Mayor of Mounds, and I will be moderating the event this evening's forum. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to the north suburban region of the Twin Cities. I'd like to thank North Metro Mayors Association for coordinating and sponsoring this forum, and thank the candidates for joining us tonight to making this event possible. I'd also like to say that we are honored to host this event this evening, and thank you to NineNorth for recording and airing this forum. Our goal tonight is to give residents a chance to learn about the candidates' ideas and positions on issues of importance to the future of our communities and the North Metro region. We'll ask 4 prepared questions with rotating response order and set time limits. We regret we cannot cover every issue of interest tonight due to time constraints. Before we begin, the candidates flipped a coin to determine the speaking order. I'm pleased to introduce the candidates for House 40 District A, Aisha Elmquist and Louis Withrow. Thank you both for being here. Each candidate will be afforded 2 minutes for an opening statement, starting with Ms. Elmquist.
Hello, thank you so much, Mayor. It's great to be here in Mounds View, part of District 40A, where I am running as the DFL candidate. Thank you to North Metro mayors and for the other local leaders that are here for your important work across the North Metro. I have lived in my current home in the district for 15 years, where my husband and I are raising our 2 kids. We love this community. I went to Mounds View High School. My husband went to Irondale, and it's great living here. My career has been as a civil rights attorney and a public servant, and I have worked on defending people's rights and helping them navigate complex systems and get the services that they need in those systems. Our challenges right now include threats to those basic rights, to those services that I've been working on throughout my career, and that's inspired me to run for this position, to work on the issues I've been working on for years in a new way. I want to partner with all of you to help people build good lives in this community, whether that's through our excellent schools, housing opportunity, having good jobs, and safe communities. This district is home to me, and I want to bring my experience working in nonprofits, business, and government to the communities of Mounds View, New Brighton, Arden Hills, and Shoreview. Thank you so much.
Mr. Withrow?
Hello, my name is Luis Withrow. I'm running here in House District 40A for State House, representing parts of New Brighton, parts of Shoreview, Arden Hills, and Mounds View. And I chose to run this cycle for State House because maybe I'm a little bit naive. I'm naive because I look at the country today and I, like many other Americans, feel scared. I feel scared because at 24 years old, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be able to afford a mortgage for a home and build equity in my own property. I'm scared that I'm never going to be able to afford a child because of the costs incurred through it. I'm scared too that that child will not grow up in a country that is the same or better than the one that I grew up in. I was approached to run by a woman named Jenny Liang, who was given the opportunity of a lifetime and had to take it, and she was the foreigner candidate here. And she gave me a call one day on the phone. She's like, "Hey, Luis, you live in Mounds View, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I live in Mounds View." She's like, "You want to give me a call?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." She's like, "Hey, I'm dropping out. Do you want to run?" And I was like, "I don't know. I thought you were going to ask me about pizza or something. Bring pizza to the next BPOU meeting." But I chose to run because I believe that instead of looking at the world and looking at these issues and complaining about them or just doing nothing to stop them, I believe in being that change that I want to see for the future of my life and my partner's life, my future children's lives, and the people in my community. So.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the prepared questions in rotating order with an optional rebuttal. Each candidate has 2 minutes to answer. After both have answered, each candidate will be offered an optional 45-second rebuttal. Question 1 is as follows, and is for you, Ms. Elmquist, first. What are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2027 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues?
I've knocked thousands of doors in this community and talked to community members in other spaces as well. And across the board, the number one concern that I hear from people is about affordability. And they're concerned about affordability now in terms of their ability to afford their lives, and they're also thinking about their kids and whether their kids will be able to afford to live in this community. And they also want to protect what makes this community strong. They want to continue protecting our strong schools. They want good health care. They want the services that they rely on. Harmful actions like what we have seen come from the federal government, such as H.R. 1, are putting a serious strain on our federal, state, and local budgets. And we are going to need to be very thoughtful and work together on how are we going to protect our critical priorities and also make sure that we're not putting unsustainable pressures on local taxpayers. We've seen firsthand through Operation Metro Surge how the decisions in Washington can have immense consequences on our local communities, families, businesses, and schools. My career has been about bringing people together to work on difficult problems. And that means talking to those who are most affected and working directly with them and coming up with solutions that work. I'll bring that same approach to working with all of you. And my goal is to work collaboratively with the cities, with everyone in our communities to keep this community strong and to keep that focus on what we're hearing from communities that they need, including making life affordable.
Louise, same question. What are your 1 or 2 top issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2027 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues?
Well, I thought about this question a lot before I came to this, and I was thinking to myself, you know, when I knock on these doors, I'm not just knocking on the doors of Republicans or of Democrats or of traditional DFLers or of socialists or anything like that. I'm knocking on everyone's doors. And so I don't just hear about one or two issues. And I think from all the issues that I hear about, the number one issue that I think people want to see, or the number one thing that people want to see out of the state government that they're not seeing right now, is leadership. We want to see everyone work together. If I get into the state house, I would make sure that we work together as Republicans and as Democrats to pursue a Minnesota that is stronger, to pursue one that sets out goals for itself and seeks to be more competitive on a national level. And that requires everybody to work as one.
Moving on. Next, we'll talk about transportation. What transportation infrastructure priority in your district or the broader North Metro region do you think deserves more attention at the state level? And what do you see it as, and why do you see it as important regionally? Luis, this is to you first.
I think that the issue that we're seeing with transit infrastructure and why we see so much opposition here in the North Metro and here in other suburbs of Minneapolis and St. Paul is safety. A lot of people are NIMBYs, meaning not in my backyard, meaning people who don't want to see the expansion of these infrastructures, which I do support. They're scared that it's going to bring the safety issues that we see in Minneapolis and St. Paul to them. And I acknowledge that because I'm one of those people. I did not grow up in Mounds View. I'm from Lowry Hill in Minneapolis, which is one of the nicer neighborhoods in Minneapolis. I lived right along the Metro bus line. I lived in a neighborhood which had a 100 out of 100 walkability score on Zillow. But I never walked anywhere, and I never took the bus line, because when I walked everywhere, I would see, my partner would be harassed. I would see people keeled over with needles still in their arms. When I took the bus line from work, I could oftentimes get threatened or witness uncomfortable situations. What I want to see is, before we discuss the transit infrastructure expansion, not as before, but as we discuss the transit infrastructure expansion, I want to see public safety become a priority issue here in Minnesota. I have a piece of legislation that I want to introduce called the One Strike Policy, which means people who are convicted of serious antisocial crimes, be it murder, be it rape, be it embezzlement of public funds, any of these things, I want to see them locked up with a mandatory minimum of life. And once we see a cleaning up of our streets, we can see an expansion of our transit infrastructure to include all those cities. So.
Ms. Elmquist, same question. What transportation infrastructure priority in your district or the broader North Metro region do you think deserves more attention at the state level, and why do you see it as important regionally?
We need stronger transit connections in the North Metro, especially north-south connecting routes so people can get to jobs and other places that they need to go. We need more frequent bus service, better connections, and looking at creative solutions like Metro Micro and how we can expand that and flexible services throughout our region. People need to get to work, they need to get to healthcare, they need to get to the places they rely on. And this is also an important employment issue. Employers in our region need people who can get here to do the jobs, and that's related to economic expansion in our area as well. Transportation infrastructure is business infrastructure, and I have experience working on transportation issues with MnDOT and others in our communities. New Brighton is doing some really great work related to safety in their Safe Streets and Roads for All work. We have Mounds View that's doing planning for the future of the Mounds View corridor. And thank you to the mayor for being here today and for the important work that Mounds View is doing. We have good examples of opportunities for local government, county, and state to align on our transportation goals for local needs. And Rice Creek Commons is one of the biggest opportunities to shape this region's future and to work together to build strong walking, biking, and transportation connections from the start to connect across the North Metro where people live and work. And I would like to be a state partner with our local governments for the solutions you're already coming up with or for ways to help your community, and talk about how the state can be helpful in moving that forward and listening to residents about what would work best for them and their communities.
No rebuttal this time.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. This one is for you, Ms. Elmquist. The North Metro competes globally for business and workers alike. What policies would you support, whether focused on business growth, workforce, and labor needs, or both, to help this region attract and retain them?
For workers, we need to make it more possible for people to build a life here and to stay in the workforce. That means the ability to afford to get to work, to live near their work, and to care for their families. And that's why support for things like childcare, transportation, and the Family Medical Leave Act are so critical to supporting our workers. And I'm proud to be endorsed by the AFL-CIO and to work with our labor unions. We also need stronger pathways to good careers. That includes schools, colleges, trades, and employers working together so that young people can get trained for good jobs that are needed in our communities and our region right now. For business, I want to see a government that is responsive to supporting smart infrastructure and economic development. Mounds View and New Brighton have already identified some redevelopment opportunities in their communities, and I want the state to be a partner to help support those locally driven plans. We need a stronger tax base in this region, and that includes looking at housing, businesses, and mixed use for our communities. I think we have a shared goal that in the North Metro, this will be a place where businesses can find the people that they need and also where workers can build a good life. And that's what I want to work on as a partner with all of you.
Louise, same question. The North Metro competes globally for businesses and workers alike. What policies would you support, whether focused on business growth, workforce and labor needs, or both, to help this region attract and retain them?
I think that the answer lies in the question, which is that it is both. We need to be working as a state with both businesses as well as laborers to ensure their continued future. For the business side, what I would like to see is a simplification of the tax code and a simplification of our regulations in Minnesota. Because I think that both parties love to play this game where they say, oh, well, you know, we can tax businesses as much as we want and, you know, they can pay for it and the wealthiest 1% will pay for it. People don't like having their money taken without need. And they don't like paying more and more in taxes. But Republicans are wrong about this too when they say, oh, well, we can cut these people taxes and they just reinvest it into the economy. Because that's never what happens. What happens is that the tax burden gets shifted onto myself and everyone else who just pays taxes and works and, you know, has a pension and a Roth IRA. What we need to see is a simplification of that tax code. We need to see it be something that can be read within an afternoon by anybody, both for businesses as well as personal peoples. And for workers, what we need to see for them is an expansion of our work with them as a state. And again, not trying to undercut them and shift burdens uniquely onto them. I want to see us have immigration enforcement that is targeted, not this gung-ho enforcement that we saw during Metro Surge, but is targeted and smart. I want to see us expand the opportunities for free community college as well as trade school in order to better equip our workforce. I want to see us invest into, again, young people's lives and make sure that they can grow up in a community, because education does not begin in the schools. It begins at home. It begins with mom and dad and neighbors. And we need to have a community in which people are able to grow alongside those.
We'll move on. This will be the last question. It starts with you, Luis. There is an ongoing debate about whether numerous housing and zoning decisions should be set by the state or left to local city governments. Where do you come down on that question and why?
I believe that in order for the state to be able to work with local governments, they have to rebuild some of the trust that has been lost with them. Again, as I alluded to earlier, a lot of NIMBYs are not against transit infrastructure because, they are against having buses and trains and being able to commute to work in anything besides their own car. They're against it because they're afraid that it's going to bring some of the issues that we've seen in the hearts of the metros here into the suburbs. And so I think that the thing that we need to do is rebuild trust first and foremost. And once we have that trust once again, I do believe that we should work at a state level to do that. And at the state level, we should work to go through these communities and create a program which connects all of the metro, all of the outer cities as well, like high-speed transit to Duluth and St. Cloud and Rochester. But I think that we can have a bargain together in which, in exchange for public safety, we receive public infrastructure. I'm on board with a lot of left-wing liberals when they say they want European-style infrastructure. But in order to have European-style infrastructure, we have to have American-style law and order, which we're not seeing at the moment in the cities.
Ms. Elmquist, same question for you. There is an ongoing debate about whether numerous housing and zoning decisions should be set by the state or left to local city governments. Where do you come down on this issue and why?
First, I want to state, and this is applicable not just to this question, but throughout this entire conversation, that my values are inclusivity. My values are being welcoming to our neighbors. And that is what I'm hearing from people at the doors that they want in a state representative and what their values are in this community. Now, specifically to this question, Minnesota makes the most progress when states and cities work together. And for the statewide housing shortage, the state needs to have a role in helping to solve that. And I hear this all the time. Young people in our communities say, I want to stay here. I want to be able to find my own home. And older people say, I want to be able to stay here as well and have different housing options. We also know that communities need flexibility. This is not a one-size-fits-all for every community. And in our own cities, we have people working on smaller infill housing and major development. And I support state action to remove barriers, but we have to do things that are practical and are responsive to our communities. So this isn't an either-or solution. I think the biggest thing we need statewide is more homes that people can afford, and that also includes accessible housing, and the state investing in infrastructure. The state has a big role in terms of infrastructure development and housing. I want the state to work with cities, understand what you're already doing, and have a shared goal to build more housing while giving local leaders needed flexibility. So when I'm looking at a specific housing proposal that's coming forward, if I am elected to the legislature, I will look carefully at what's proposed, and I will commit to talking to you and working with you and residents in the community about what is workable for the 4 cities in this district.
All right, we'll move on to closing statements. Ms. Elmquist, you are first.
Our community is a great place to live. I feel so lucky to live here, and I'm running to keep it as this wonderful community that we all call home. My work as a civil rights attorney and a public servant has been about protecting people's rights. It's been about making government better. Everyone should feel safe and respected, and this should be a place where people of every age can continue to build a life. The type of leadership that I would bring is a focus on bringing people together and coming up with solutions that actually work. Local leaders and residents deserve a state representative who understands what you're working on, who will meet with you, who really gets to know this community, and who fights for the resources that this community needs. It would be an honor to represent this community, and I want to thank you so much for the invitation and being here today.
Yep, Mr. Withrow.
The one thing that I hear most at the doors when I'm knocking is, aren't you young and inexperienced? And I say, well, yes, but I'm also young and wide-eyed and naive. I've been volunteering in political causes both here in Minnesota and outside of Minnesota for the better part of 10 years now. And what I have learned from that, more than anything, is that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. I believe that I'm someone who's driven and principled. I'm set out to do very simple solutions, but these solutions will impact our community and our state in a great way. And with the trust of your votes and your confidence, I would love to go to St. Paul this fall and build a Minnesota which we can all be proud to call home.
Thank you to both of you. This brings a close to tonight's forum for House District 48. We'd like to thank our candidates and the North Metro Mayors Association, the City of Mounds View, and NineNorth for making this event possible. Please remember to go out and vote before Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's North Metro Mayors Association Legislative Candidate Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Zach Lindstrom. I am the Mayor of Mounds View, and I will be moderating this at the evening's forum. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to the North suburban region of the Twin Cities. I'd like to thank North Metro Mayors Association for coordinating and sponsoring this forum, and thank the candidates for joining us and making this event possible. I also would like to say that it's a pleasure for us to host this event this evening here in Mounds View, and thank you to NineNorth for recording and airing this forum. Our goal tonight is to give residents a chance to learn about the candidates' ideas and positions on issues of importance to the future of our communities in the North Metro region. We'll ask 4 prepared questions with set time limits. We regret we cannot cover every issue of interest this evening due to time constraints. I'm pleased to introduce tonight for Senate District 40, Rachel Japuntich. Rachel, you will have 2 minutes to give your opening statement.
All right, thank you. Hi, my name is Rachel Japuntich. I am running for State Senate in the cities of Arden Hills, Shoreview, Mounds View, most of New Brighton, and the most of Roseville and the northern part of New Brighton. I'm a fiscally responsible moderate. A little bit about my background. I grew up in the area and I graduated from Roseville Area High School, and I now live in Shoreview with my husband and our 3 children, and they attend the Mounds View School District. My background is in engineering. I'm a very logical, data-driven person. I think we all have very shared values in that we want good education for our kids, we want to live in safe communities, and we want to have affordability so that we can live comfortably. These are areas that I think we can agree need some improvement, and I think we sometimes just disagree on the approach and how to fix those issues. I believe that the current approach is not working, and that is why I'm running, because I would like to try a new approach. I bring a logical, data-driven voice to the legislature, and I feel like that voice is currently missing right now. Our country has turned 250 years old this year, and the way that democracy should work, I believe, is that we should hold our elected leaders accountable, and when things are not working, we should vote them out and vote in someone new. So please consider voting someone new in. My opponent has been in for 40 years, and if you don't like the way that I run things, you can always vote me out later.
Well, we'll move on to our prepared questions segment. What are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning, and if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2027 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address these issues?
The top 2 issues that I hear from constituents are around affordability and fraud. For affordability, taxes and unfunded mandates are making our state less affordable than other states. Think about people that buy a house in Wisconsin. Everyone knows that it costs less to buy that house in Wisconsin than it does to buy the same house here. That's because of different regulations that we have. We also know people that commute from Wisconsin to work in Minnesota because of the taxes being lower in Wisconsin. Around fraud, people work hard for their money, and they expect that that money is being used wisely and not going to fraud. Fraud is not only stealing from the taxpayers, it's hurting the very people that the money was intended to go to in the first place. Recent examples show that when fraud is identified, payments are stopped to all parties in that particular category. Housing stabilization, feeding hungry kids, at-home care, and recently the federal government has stopped some Medicaid payments to our state. These are not partisan issues. We all need to balance our checkbooks at home, and we expect the state to do the same. At home, we need to make decisions on what to spend money on and what we can't spend money on, because we only have so much money coming in. We can't go to our employer and say, hey, I've got more things to spend money on, I need a raise. Meanwhile, the state doesn't seem to have those tough decisions and tough discussions on reducing spending or holding spending flat. Instead, they just keep raising taxes. As an engineer, I solve problems for a living, and I work collaboratively with others, and I would do the same thing in the state legislature.
Moving on to our next question in transportation. What transportation infrastructure priority in your district or the broader North Metro region do you think deserves more attention at the state level, and why do you see it as important regionally?
Yes, so I've read through your North Metro Mayor's specific transportation projects, and I do support the Northwest Route crossing, the improvements to Highway 252 and Highway 65. However, those aren't specifically in my legislative district, so I wouldn't be a legislative sponsor of those, but I am definitely supportive of them. In general, I'm supportive of improvements that help with major safety issues, like crossings, around railroads or near schools are two examples, and things that support regional growth. So I know that the Rice Creek Commons is looking to expand to have more businesses there, as well as new housing, and there will be a lot of infrastructure needs that the state can support there.
Our next question, the North Metro competes globally for business and workers alike. What policies would you support, whether focused on business growth, workforce and labor needs, or both, to help this region attract and retain them?
Yes, so I support lowering taxes and reducing regulatory burdens. A hypothetical example to discuss this is if you wanted to switch to the metric system as a regulatory guideline, that might seem like very easy to do at a first glance, but then you start thinking about, okay, well, how many signs do I drive by on a daily basis that tell me the speed limit in miles per hour that now need to switch over to kilometers? There's the number of signs, the material, the actual cost of buying new signs, the cost of disposing the signs, the cost of actually the labor to go out and replace them. The state would probably have to increase tab fees to pay for theirs, or the gas tax, and then county and city, for the county and city roads that would impact. You'd have to do an increase in property taxes because that's not currently in their budget plans. This cost then gets passed down to you as residents and businesses, and this is just one hypothetical example of something, but you can imagine that several mandates over and over, it's kind of like subscriptions, and eventually it adds up to be a lot. And I know Ramsey County cited that the number one reason that they are raising property taxes is because of unfunded mandates. And you can go across with the county, the city, and school districts, and that is a big reason as to why our property taxes are continuing to go up. Why would a business want to operate in this environment, and why would people want to continue to live in environments where we continue to have our property taxes increase, as well as our other taxes as well? We need to get our taxes and our regulations lowered so that we can be competitive in the workforce and the labor force.
We'll move on to our next question. This is an ongoing debate about whether numerous housing and zoning decisions should be made by the state or left to local city governments. Where do you come down on this question, and why?
Yeah, I think that housing and residential zoning should be set by the local city governments. The local city governments understand the land uses the best in their area. They also know the needs of the residents the best, and they are the best to address those issues.
All right, well, that wraps up our question segment. We'll give you an opportunity for a closing statement.
Sure. Again, my name is Rachel Japuntich. I'm running for state senate. I'm a fiscally responsible moderate with a background in engineering. I collaborate with others to solve problems, and I use data to make decisions. And then I go back and I check to see if those decisions that we made, if the solutions are actually working or if we need to course adjust. So thank you very much for all of your time, and I hope you consider voting for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This brings us to a close of tonight's forum for the Senate District 40. We would like to thank our candidates, the North Metro Mayors Association, and the City of Mounds View and NineNorth for making tonight's event possible. Please remember to go out and vote on or before Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you.